Let's talk 25 forever foods. Hi friends, welcome to Carrie's Culinary Crafts, where we talk all things food. And today we're going to get into our preparedness series, and we are going to talk about 25 forever food items that I keep stocked in my pantry, and I think you all should too. These are items that last 25 plus years. So if they are items that we normally use in everyday use, why wouldn't we stock them up and have them, since they last forever and you won't have to worry about buying them. These are items that I personally started out with many years ago. I started this whole preparedness journey like back in like 2010 or so. It started with a garden. My very first garden, all I had was tomatoes, so it started with the garden, then it went into canning and preserving the food, and then it went into like long-term storage. I've done many years of research with long-term food storage, and I started that journey with these forever items. Now, at first I started where I got I would fill up a 6-gallon bucket, and then I would move on to the next thing. I would kind of focus on one thing per month, and depending on the cost, something that was not very expensive, like 50 pounds of flour or something like that, that would fit into a 6-gallon bucket. I would focus on doing that 1 month. If you can't afford to buy a whole 50-pound bag, although back when I bought it, a 50-pound bag was like $13. I think it's up to like $20 now, which I still don't think that's a bad price. But even if you can't afford that, if you have to buy them in the 10-pound bags or 5-pound bags, just keep buying an extra one and an extra one until you have an entire bucket full. So this, I have, if you see me looking down, I've got lots of notes. I've got lots of index cards here. So this is going to be a long one. So get your pen and paper, get your coffee, and buckle up. This is going to be a long one, but I hope you enjoy it. Okay, so you know what? We're just going to dive right in. Now the 25 forever foods, what I call as forever foods, are foods that will be safe to eat if they are stored correctly 25 plus years. Now there are items that will last 25 years, but they may degrade in your vitamins, or they may turn to, they might not taste the same as your fresh, but they are still okay to eat. They are not going to, cause any issues. They are safe items to eat or to consume. Okay, so to get into this, the very first thing that we're going to talk about is the number one important item is bottled water. Okay. Now, one of the first things that I've learned are you need to remember things in the number with the number 3. You can survive 3 minutes without air. You can survive 3 days without water, and 3 weeks without food. Okay, just always keep that in mind. 3 days water, 3 weeks food. Now, yeah, there are some circumstances people can go longer, or people can, may not go the full 3 weeks. This is just a general idea of what to keep in your mind. Okay. Now, with water, not all water is equal. I am talking, if you're sealed bottles of water will go forever. There's no worries about that. You can open that bottle of water 50 years from now and it will be absolutely fine, as long as it is still sealed. Okay. Now, other types of water, like tap water. If you're using city tap water will be fresh between 1 and 5 years. It's not going to go bad per se. You can always drink it. It may go stale, and usually what they say is you just need to mix it up. It needs some air to get it to taste like non-stale. But your city water goes through a treatment system and has chlorine in it. So it is going to store for a very long time. Now, with that city water, you want to make sure that you use water safe containers to store that in. I have 5-gallon stackable water containers downstairs, and what I do with those is I fill them up completely to the top, so no air can get in there. Then I put the lid on and seal it as hard as I can. And that plastic is a very, very thick plastic, and it's BPA free and all that kind of stuff, so nothing is going to leach into that water. So if you don't have sealed bottled water, that would be your next safe bet for storing water. Now, with that said, that was talking city water. This does not apply to well water. I can't speak on that because all well water is different. Some might need certain kinds of conditioners in it. Some well water has sediments in it. So depending on what they are would be how long they can be stored. And with that, I have water stored, but I also have ways to purify water. You need to be able to purify it somehow, whether you have some kind of filters, whether you have put it over a fire and boil it, or, whatever you need to do. If you're ever in question, boil the water. And years ago they used to say, boil your water at least 10 minutes and it'll kill everything, blah, blah, blah. But that's not even the case anymore. They now say boil it for 60 seconds and it is pretty much, good to go. But you can do your own research in that. I mean, I could talk all day long on water and water purification and stuff. But because water is the most important thing, that you cannot survive without water for more than 3 days, go into dehydration, and that's some serious stuff. I have water purification tablets. I have the Berkey water filters. I have multiple filters in back stock, because these filters, I forget how many thousands of 20,000 gallons of water that you can do per each filter, and mine, I can hold 4 filters in it, so that would be 80,000 gallons. Basically what I just put on my filter is I put the date that it's installed, and then I estimate how often we go through the gallons to see how long that I could use that filter for. So that's one way. I have the clarification tablets, and also I have the means to make like my own layered filtration system if need be. Like I have charcoal and sand, and you know, you need pebbles and rocks and stuff to build, you know, a layered filtration system for water. If things, you know, and that is for like if things get really, really bad, and you know, the water is, for me, I'm on city water, and if the city water shuts down, how am I going to get the water? I don't have water on my property. There is water within a couple blocks from me. You know, that is like creek water, and you need to know how to make that safe to drink. You know, you could get that, you could filter it, you can boil it, you could do, you know, all kinds of things. So, I mean, I would definitely tell you guys to go and, you know, like read in depth different ways that you can get water, because water is the number one importance of life. So without me going into that, I could probably talk about water all day long. The two main things that you need to keep in mind for storing water is if you're using used containers, like say you save a container of something that you have already used. Like a good one, for example, that I like to save, I buy like gallons of distilled white vinegar at a time. I use a lot of vinegar. We'll get into that one later. That's another forever item. But distilled vinegar bottles are excellent bottles to store water in, just because the vinegar itself is like a purified product. So I will store water in those. Now, what I would never store water in is to drink, I should say. To drink. I would never store water in any milk jugs whatsoever. No matter how much you think you've cleaned it, even if cleaning it with bleach and stuff, there's a lot of bacteria that can come with dairy products. So if I am using a milk jug, personally, I use, no matter what I'm using, if I am using a jug that has already been used and I'm storing water in it, I am not using that as drinking water. I am using that as like secondary water or gray water, water that I can use to bathe with, water that you can use to flush with if you have to. But I'm not using that as like drinking water. My drinking water are sealed bottle water that I buy, whether they're small bottles, big bottles, gallons, whatever, water storage containers. Those are what I use strictly for drinking. So I wouldn't want to waste my good drinking water on like bathing or flushing down the toilet. That's just silly. You can use secondary or gray water for that. Okay, so that is number one. We'll go through the rest of these pretty quickly, or some of them pretty quickly, but some of them I will go into detail. But I wanted to start with water because that was the most important one, and I have a lot to say about water. And if you have any questions or anything, you know, leave them down below and I will definitely be sure to answer them for you. I certainly can't touch on everything, you know, in this video, but I am trying to get the important things across to everybody. Okay, so 1, bottled water. Okay, 2 and 3, we have salt and sugar. I put these two together because they are, they both have been around since like the beginning of time. Salt and sugar way back when was used as forms of money. Everybody needs salt to live. Everybody needs about 200 milligrams of salt per day. So even if you're, you know, on a low salt diet, you're still getting a minimum of that per day because your body needs that. Whenever you sweat, you get rid of it. So salt is very, very important. And then if you're in a dire straits situation, you know, you're really not going, unfortunately, we're not going to be worrying about health issues. We're just going to be learning about trying to survive. So yes, I understand, you know, if you have high blood pressure and so forth, that, you know, you have to keep salt to a minimum, but I'm not talking that type of scenario. I'm just talking about like, if we are in dire straits and these are forever foods, forever items that you can use to barter, you can use, you know, to trade, you can use cooking. Okay, so like salt is important, and your body needs it to stay healthy. Okay, sugar, on the other hand, your body doesn't necessarily need it to be healthy, but sugar gives you energy. There's all different kinds of sugar. But sugar also was used as a form of money, because when you're in dire straits, the biggest thing people miss are sweets. It's a big morale booster type thing. So sugar, though you don't need it to survive, it makes life a little bit better for you. And with salt and sugar, one thing that I want you guys to know, like if you store your salt and sugar, like in Mylar bags, in buckets, whatever, just do not use oxygen absorbers with the salt and sugar. Everything else you can use oxygen absorbers with. The only thing that I put in with salt and sugar are the silica packs, just to make sure that there is no moisture, you know, gets in there. But I do not use oxygen absorbers, because with those two items, it will make them clump into a brick. Now, is it still usable? Yes, it is. But you will have a hard time getting it, you know, like having to use a hammer to get it into pieces. You know, like if you think about it, people that have like horses and they get a salt block, you know, it's a big block of salt that they lick. That is what it would turn into if you put one of those oxygen absorbers in there. So you want to stay away from that. And salt and sugar are very important also, because you can use them for preserving and curing meats. You know, think about that. Whenever you're preserving, you preserve fruit, you preserve meats, anything that you preserve or ferment, you need salt and sugar for those items. You know, way back when, you know, caveman days, you know, how did they keep their meat? Well, they dried it, they cured it with salt. You know, that's how you preserve it. So, along with water, you know, your salt and sugar is something that you definitely should store as much as you can, because like I said, it lasts forever. So why wouldn't you store it? And salt and sugar are the two of those items that aren't that expensive. If you can't afford to buy a 50-pound bag, then buy in smaller bags and just build yourself up to get yourself a bucket, you know? if it's going to last forever, it really does not matter if you're putting it in a bin and just putting it in the closet and forgetting about it. Okay. All right. So number 4, we have vinegar. Vinegar has a multiple uses, used for cooking, used for cleaning, preserving. Distilled white vinegar is the most used vinegar. Now, all vinegars will be okay, but like your apple cider vinegars and your red wine vinegars, they will have some sediment in there after they've, been for a couple of years or so. Not saying that it's bad, but, sometimes people, it just doesn't look good when there's sediment in there. So you will get that with your apple cider vinegar and your red wine vinegar and other types of vinegars like that. But you like your distilled white vinegar, I keep 12 gallons of that on hand at all times. When I use one, when I finish one, I buy another one, just so I always have the 12. Vinegar, whenever I bought vinegar, was a long time ago, and it was super cheap. I mean, I think it's probably doubled in price now, but even doubled in price, it's really not that expensive. I think a gallon right now is like $3.67 for maybe over $4 or something like that. So 12 times 4, $48 can give you 12 gallons. Now, if you can't do that all at once, then just buy an extra one every time you go shopping or something like that. But distilled white vinegar is something that I always have, because I always need it for canning. I always use it in cleaning. And I even use it in my washer, freshens things up. So there's a lot of uses for vinegar. So that's another good one. 5 and 6. These two kind of go together. And actually it should be 5, 6, and 7, because after I did all of this, I realized there's another one that should have been in there. So that's why I say 25 plus items. Okay, your pure maple syrup, honey, and molasses. Okay, pure maple syrup. We're not talking about the syrup that's just corn syrup with food coloring, which is most pancake syrups. We're talking pure 100% maple syrup, molasses. Pure blackstrap molasses is the best. And what else did I say? Okay, honey. All right, those 3 items, they are all antibacterial. So they all resist, bacteria. And these items were found, if you know a little bit about like history and the pharaohs and like King Tut and things like that, history like that, honey and maple syrup, those things were found in their tombs. Like in King Tut's tomb, there was honey found, and it was still good. Now, it may crystallize, but just because honey crystallizes, that does not mean that it's bad. All it needs is to be warmed up, and it will turn back into honey. So in honey is, there's a lot of benefits with honey, a lot of health benefits, and it's very good for sore throats. And there's a particular kind of honey. This is called Manuka honey. Okay. Now this isn't your standard honey. You can use it as honey. It tastes the same as honey, but this has a lot of different properties in it. Now this honey is a very expensive honey. Honey itself is expensive. You can get I should have grabbed one, but like a jar like this nowadays is costing like $10 to $12 or whatever. I like to buy them in the gallons, which, you know, is a lot of money. We're talking, you know, $50 or something for those. But this Manuka honey, I have this little container of it, and I just wanted one container just to have it. You can use this for many first aid issues. Now you can use the other honey too, but this has some extra properties in it that regular honey does not have. This is very sterile. It's good for wound care, and it's also good for pain relief. So it's something to remember, like if you would end up getting a really bad scratch or something and it's bleeding, if you have honey, even if it's not this honey, if you have honey, you can cover your wound with that because it is antibacterial, and because it's sticky, it will keep any bacteria out of it. This Manuka honey, it just has some extra properties in it that's has like a natural pain reducer in it, and it was always used for wound care in the past. So now this is very expensive. I mean, this little jar alone costs $25. This is not something that you have to have. It was just something that I wanted to have in my first aid bucket. So I have one of these, and I'm not going to use this to eat. This is strictly for first aid purposes. So that goes in my first aid bucket. Okay, let me see. Did I get everything on that? Yes. Okay, so that's done. All right. Number 7, pure extracts and oils. Pure extracts like pure vanilla, pure mint extracts. I'm not talking like your imitation. We're talking the pure stuff, because only the pure stuff is made with what number 8 is with alcohol. Okay. Alcohol that is 80 proof or above is a sterile alcohol that will last forever. Okay. Your essential oils and stuff like that, those will last a very, very long time at all also, because they are just pure oils. There's nothing else in there. Okay. Alcohol is very important, not only for first aid. You know, you can have rubbing alcohol, it's very sterile and so forth, but you can also have alcohol like your vodka or your whiskeys. You want to make sure that they are 80 proof or higher, because with those alcohols you can make your extracts with that. You can use it for wound care because it's sterile. And the biggest thing for me that I use it for is for bartering. One of the things that I think of a lot of people in this world that cannot function without alcohol. They are going to be in some dire straits situation. Alcohol is going to be worth more than gold in those types of situations. So what I do, and I don't have any to show you because I have them packed up, but what I do is I like to buy those little bottles. You know, like if we go to the liquor store and we buy a bottle of wine or something that we're having for dinner or a special occasion or something. My husband and I really aren't drinkers. My husband has beer once in a while, but you know, and I might have a drink if we go out for a date night or something, but we are not drinkers. So I don't really, like, other than wine, I don't really have any stock of anything here in my home. But those little bottles that you can see, like when you're up at the register, I buy those for the specific use of using them as barter items. Instead of, I mean, you certainly can buy the big ones, which I think I have like one of each or something in storage, but like the little bottles, I can fit a whole bunch of those into a 6-gallon bucket, and one little bottle will go a long way when it comes to bartering. Or if you need just a little bit for, first aid use, you don't have to open a whole bottle. You just have a little bottle. So that's what I do for the alcohol part. I purchase those little tiny bottles, and then they're not that expensive. Like when I go into the store, and if I'm getting wine or something, I will buy like a case is 12, a case of 12 of those little bottles. But you don't have to do that. You can buy one at a time. I stick with the straight stuff, like I prefer like vodka, or like a hardcore whiskey or something like that. But I think the majority of what I have is vodka, just because it's a clear liquid, sterile. I can use that for everything. You can use that to make vanilla. You can use it, for anything. So it's a good one to store. Okay. Number 9, we have cornstarch. Cornstarch has so many uses. My throat is getting dry from all this talking. I told you it was going to be a good one. Okay. Cornstarch, not only is it used for cooking, but it can also be turned into a paste. You can use it for sunburn. You can use it for deodorant, and you can use it to make it an adhesive. So lots of good uses for cornstarch. And, if you think about that, that's some serious good stuff. Cornstarch doesn't cost that much. If you have to, buy 1 can at a time until you have enough. I have, all of these items that I already have at least one. Most of them more than that, but at least 1 6-gallon bucket stored properly. Now, storing like this is not necessarily the best way to store it. Like, it's not going to store forever like this. We're talking repackaging things into like Mylar bags, into 6-gallon buckets with oxygen absorbers and so forth. We're not talking items just sitting in their regular containers. And especially anytime after something is opened, it does start to deteriorate a little bit faster. But okay, so cornstarch is one of those forever items that can be used for so many different things. Okay, 10, coffee. This is another one kind of along the lines with alcohol. People that are dependent on coffee, being without coffee is going to be a rough thing for some people. Both my husband and I are coffee drinkers, and we absolutely love our coffee, and we both have to have a cup of coffee every day. But there are some people that drink coffee all day long, and they depend on coffee. So, but coffee, if you have instant coffee, is freeze-dried coffee. And no, it doesn't taste as good as, your regular brewed coffee. But freeze-dried coffee will last forever. You could store it in Mylar bags. It'll last forever. Now, your other coffees, if you save the coffee beans, they could last forever if you go ahead and put the whole beans in Mylar bags with oxygen absorbers in and so forth. They will last forever as well. But your like standard coffee, the way that it is packaged, it's not going to last very long. You know, like the freshness only lasts a couple months. And once it's opened, it deteriorates fast. But if you put it in Mylar bag, it's going to last longer. It may not last forever, but is it going to go bad? No, it's not going to go bad, but it will get weaker over the years. So it's not like it's going to harm you, but it will lose its effectiveness and taste over the years. Okay, 11, dried pasta. Dried pasta can pretty much last forever if you repackage it. I'm not saying keep it packaged in those cardboard cartons. That doesn't work. When I get my pasta, I immediately put them into other containers. Now these are containers that I am using. They are in my everyday pantry. These are sealed, and you know, like they have a gasket in there, so no air is getting in there. And I keep one of the silica packs in there to keep, so no moisture or anything gets in there. They will keep like this for years and years and years. But if you're talking long-term storage, I do seal them into Mylar bags and then put them into Mylar bags with the oxygen absorber, a silica pack, and I will put them into the 6-gallon buckets and have them sealed. They will last forever that way. In the cardboard, or you can store them in glass, you know, like these 1/2-gallon mason jars. They will last forever that way as well. Okay, so pasta is a good one, and pasta is a good belly filler. Definitely, it is something that is worth continuously adding to. I don't even know how much pasta I have, but I have a lot of pasta. Like I said, it's a forever food, and forever food that's going to be meal stretchers. It's definitely a good thing to have. Yeah. Okay. Next, I have wheat berries. Wheat berries is what is used. You grind it down, it makes flour. Think about everything that uses flour. Flour is used in everyday use, whether you know it is or not. I mean, just think of like simple stuff like breads. You know, bread is a belly filler, would be nice to have. So if you have flour, you can make bread. Flour itself will store for long term if you store it correctly, you know, in Mylar bags and in buckets. But your berries will last forever. When you think of like the full seeds or the full kernels of things, those are the best ways to store items. So this is the whole berry of wheat that grinds down to flour. Okay, so that is something that will last forever. And there's all different kinds of wheat berries, and I'm talking all the different kinds. You know, there's spelt berries, there's, you know, farro, there's barley, there's kamut, there's, trying to think of all the others that I have stored. All of those are wheat berries. Those will last forever. And they all, all can be used to grind down to make flour, all can be used for bread. They each provide a different kind of texture, a different kind of taste. And there's all range of prices. I like to get all different kinds because I like to try different things, different types of wheat berries. And I like to make homemade bread. I don't make it on a weekly basis. We like bread in this house, and we would eat it if I made it all the time, but I try not to make it that often because it is just empty carbs, and we try to limit our carbs, but in an emergency situation, we're not going to care about carbs. We're going to need carbs because that is energy and it will fill us up. So wheat berries, very important. Soy sauce. Soy sauce is very high in sodium. Even if you get the less sodium one, it still has a lot of sodium. Will store forever. It's an excellent thing to keep on hand because it can flavor. The whole thing with, people think about, saving the rice and the beans. And yeah, we're getting to those rice and beans. Yes, those are those forever foods, also stored correctly. But the importance of it, that is sustenance, that is going to give you food. But you want to be able to flavor things. You will get exhausted of having the same thing every single day if there's no flavor. But so anyway, soy sauce is another forever food. So it's worth saving. You can buy them in the gallon jars. They are not expensive. I buy them per gallon, and then I just refill like an old soy sauce bottle, and I just refill it with that gallon jar. But I keep several gallons, and then I keep one in my everyday pantry up here, and then I'll just refill my little jar whenever it empties out. So soy sauce, number 13. Okay, 14, 15, 16, 17. Okay, 14, 15, rice and beans. Told you I'd get to them. Rice, store them in a Mylar bag, oxygen absorber, good to go. If you have the time, if you have the space, put your bags of rice in the freezer for 3 days. It will kill any rice and beans, rice mostly. Rice and flour, ground flour. Those are the two items that often have some bug larva, bug eggs, stuff like that in it. If you have the room and you can store them in your freeze, like a deep freezer or something, for 3 days, it will kill all of those eggs, kill any bugs or anything that's in there. I never have the room in my freezer to do that. I would do it if I did. But what I do is I just make sure that I put them into Mylar bags, and I put an oxygen absorber in there, and I make sure that I get that air, all that air sucked out of them, because bugs cannot live and the eggs cannot hatch or anything if there is no oxygen. So as long as, you put an oxygen absorber in there and you check it the next day, make sure that it's sucked down and all that air is out of there, you'll be fine, because they can't survive without oxygen. But if your Mylar bag didn't seal properly and it still has air in there, like you could move things around and stuff, then that means if there are eggs in there, they can hatch and your rice flour will be full of bugs. And if you're going through all of this trouble and spending the money to do these things, you know, rice is another thing, very cheap. But if you can't afford a 50-pound bag, buy a 20-pound bag, or even go to the Dollar Tree. You can get 2-pound bags of rice for $1.25 now. Okay, so every time you go there, get a bag, get a bag, get a bag, get a bag, till you have a bucket filled up. Or, you know, the Mylar bags, just reseal them with an oxygen absorber, will last forever. Beans, the same thing, will last forever. The one thing with beans though, the older they are, they will take longer to cook. If you have a bean that's now and a bean 25 years from now, that one 25 years from now might take an extra 2 hours to cook, might take an extra 3 hours to cook. There's not going to be anything wrong with it or anything. It just will take extra time in order to cook. Another good thing with beans though, you can also grind beans down to flour if you need to. So beans, I have just about every kind of bean. I have a 6-gallon bucket of kidney beans, black beans, Great Northern beans, kidney beans, garbanzo beans. I know I have those 5 at least. There may be another 1 or 2, but those are the ones that we eat the most of. So I definitely have a minimum of 5 6-gallon buckets of those. And black beans, I may even have several buckets because that's our favorite bean. So, okay. So then 16, powdered milk. There's all different kinds of powdered milk out there, and they are getting better as the years go on. I've heard many people talk about I think it's Nido, Nido. They say that one actually is really good, that you can actually make it and drink it. Powdered milk, when I got it years ago and packed it away in Mylar in 6-gallon buckets, there wasn't as many choices as there is now. But the whole purpose that I want the milk is to use it for cooking. And I do know, like, if you just get your cheap, great value, instant dry milk, if you make it and drink it, it does not taste like milk. You could if you had to drink it, but it's not really that pleasant. But it is absolutely fine for cooking. I use it for cooking all the time. I have canisters in my pantry, in my everyday pantry. I'm not talking my long-term. My long-term, I have in Mylar bags and in buckets. And I have at least 1 6-gallon bucket of that. Milk is used in tons of stuff for cooking. It brings that creaminess to things. So it would be nice to have, milk. If you can have it, why not? And if it stores forever, why not? You can have milk. Even if you don't drink it, water is the important thing. But cooking, it will work absolutely wonderful for cooking. Okay, number 17, hard candy. Hard candy. I have this vacuum sealed in a 1/2-gallon mason jar. Hard candy is just pure sugar. It's not that it's good for us or anything like that, but it's a big morale booster and a good quick energy boost when you need it. Some people store, chocolate. Chocolate isn't something, it's not going to store forever, but you can vacuum seal it and it will last a long time. I personally am not a huge chocolate lover. like a lot of people are, I would much rather have candy than chocolate. But you know, you do whatever you want to do, but just remember, like your chocolate is not like chocolate bars and chocolate candy itself are not forever foods. You can store them long term as long as all the oxygen is out of them and they're packaged correctly. Put them in mason jars, a glass jar, suck the air out of them, put an oxygen absorber in them, and get them sealed. They'll last a very, very long time. But your hard candies are forever. It's just pure sugar. And just like the sugar and the honey and the maple syrup, it will last forever. Okay, 21. Almost done, guys. 21, oats. Any type of oats. I mean, the best oats are like your steel cut oats or, you know, the whole oat. Those will last indefinitely, and you can grind them into flour. Now, your rolled oats, as long as they're packaged correctly, they will last a very long time as well. Your rolled oats, because they've been processed and are flattened out, they may go stale after a long period of time. But if they're packaged correctly and no oxygen is getting to them, it's going to take a very long time for them to get stale. Once they're opened, then they will start deteriorating as soon as that air gets to them. But they can store, if stored correctly, for a very long period of time. And like I said, oats can be ground down to oat flour as well. So oats is a very, very good thing to have on hand. You can also use that oat bread, you know. So, I mean, you can store the oats any way you want it. I have all the different kinds of oats. I have the steel cut oats. So it's like the whole oat berry. And I have the rolled oats. And so however you want, whatever kinds you want, you can, they all would be fine. Okay, now 22. Now for you chocolate lovers out there, you'll like this. Cocoa powder. Cocoa powder will store forever. Mylar bag, oxygen absorber will store forever. Okay, and the more pure cocoa powder, the better it is. You know, that's why I like dark chocolate is actually better for you than like your milk chocolate. Dark chocolate, it is more pure chocolate. There's a lot of really good benefits. It's like, you know, helps inflammation and all. You have to look it up. There's all kinds of really, really good benefits to chocolate, but all chocolates are not created equal. We're not talking like the milk chocolate that you eat with a Snickers bar. There's so many, it went through so many processes and has a small amount of chocolate in it, cocoa in it, compared to like your pure chocolates. So I am talking like pure cocoa powder here. And the more pure it is, the better it is. But if stored correctly, it can last forever. And, you know, cocoa powder, a little bit goes a long way. So it's worth having a 6-gallon bucket of. I will never use that much in my lifetime. I mean, really, the only time I use, I probably go through maybe one of those containers a year. So that 6-gallon bucket that I have, I never have to buy cocoa powder. Okay, 23. Not only coffee lovers, but people are tea drinkers. Tea is another thing that you can save for forever if packaged correctly. It may lose its potency and, you know, once it's been opened, the flavor might start to like deteriorate and it won't be as potent, but it will still store forever for you. if you package it correctly. Okay, 24, ghee. Ghee is clarified butter. It is all the solids, everything, all the impurities, everything taken out of the butter. It is just pure clarified butter, okay? As long as it is sealed, it'll last forever. Once you open it though, it will start to deteriorate. So like when I open a jar of ghee, I start using it. Now I prefer to can my own, but every once in a while I find a really good deal on ghee and I will go ahead and get it. Because as long as it's sealed, you're good to go. It'll last forever. And then if you can it yourself in mason jars, it's the same thing. It'll stay on your shelf forever. But once you open it up, you just need to make sure that you use it until it's gone. Okay, 25. Freeze-dried and dehydrated foods. Those will pretty much last forever. I dehydrate my own food. I do not have a freeze dryer. Maybe someday I will have a freeze dryer. I would love to have a freeze dryer. It is just an expense that I can't afford at this point in time. Plus, I don't have a place for it where I am. Now, if I had one, I would make the space somewhere, but it would be awesome to have one. But for now, freeze-dried foods, if I need them or want them, I have to buy them, and they are expensive. But they will last your lifetime. So that and dehydrated foods. Dehydrated foods, they will last forever if they're stored properly, but they're not, they will, over time, it will take them longer and more water to rehydrate, and they may lose some of their vitamins and stuff over time, but they will never go bad. You can always eat them. If you don't have a dehydrator, it is something that, unless you go and buy the Excalibur, which is like one of the top of the line dehydrators, and if you're an avid person that dehydrates, it's well worth the money. I had a Presto, 11 tray Presto dehydrator, and I used it all the time. I loved it, and it was not expensive. I bought it, I think it was like $40 or $50 or something like that. And I used it a lot. I used it a lot. All summer long, I used it because I dry herbs and dehydrate vegetables and, you know, with the garden and frozen vegetables and so forth. So I do love to dehydrate. Now, I have a new stove that I got a few months ago, which is actually a dehydrator as well. It is, I love my new stove, and I know I've talked about it before. It's got a built-in air fryer, and it's got a built-in bread proofer and a built-in dehydrator. So I was able to get rid of several appliances. I was able to get rid of my air fryer. I was able to get rid of my dehydrator. So it was kind of nice that I was able to do that. But I love to dehydrate, and I still do that. In fact, I am going to be dehydrating more vegetables soon because I just used up all of my dehydrate. I had several half-gallon jars of dehydrated vegetables, but I have been making meals in a jar, and that uses dehydrated vegetables, and I used all that I have. So I need to go ahead and dehydrate some more veggies, and I'll do a video whenever I go ahead and do that. But dehydrated is another thing very, very good to have. Oh wait, somehow I missed, I'm sorry guys. I went straight to 21 and I forgot about 18, 19, and 20. My bad, sorry. 18, 19, and 20, and these are good ones. I've got front and back on it. Okay, peppercorns. This goes with, not just peppercorns, all seed, whole spices. You know, like this is the whole peppercorn. You get whole fennel seeds, whole coriander seeds. Those whole seed spices will last forever if you store them correctly in glass, in Mylar bag with oxygen absorber. They will last forever. Once you grind them up, that is when they start to deteriorate. So once you grind them up, you want to use them. And you only want to grind up what you are going to use within the next couple of months or something like that. Like I will do, when I grind, I use peppercorns and I grind them down to make my fresh pepper that I use in my pepper shakers for cooking and on the table. I will like just take a cup of peppercorns and then grind them in my coffee. I have a coffee grinder, but I use it as my herb grinder, seed grinder. So I will use that whenever I need it. 19, popcorn. Popcorn will last forever, and it's a great thing to have, a great snack item, and you can grind it down for cornmeal. So you can make cornbread and cornmeal mush, cereals, whatever. Popcorn, good one. All right, and the other ones, this is the last one. Sorry, I jumped ahead of myself. Baking soda. Pure baking soda has so many uses. It is unreal. Okay. I am just going to read right from my card because there's just so many things. Pure baking soda is good for cooking. It's good for cleaning. It's an amazing degreaser. You can use it to make deodorant. It's an odor neutralizer. It's an air freshener, whitener. You can use it in your laundry. You can use it as toothpaste, stain remover. It's a pesticide remover for fruits and veggies. When I wash my fruits and veggies, I use one or the other. I use either vinegar or I use baking soda, or I use both if I'm going to let them sit for a while. And baking soda can be used if you are having like an allergic reaction, itchy skin, dry skin, and sunburns. Those are just a few things that baking soda is good for. So with all those things that baking soda is good for, and it lasts forever, why not store it in bulk amounts? It is not that expensive. If you can't buy the big bags, buy little bags, one at a time until you have a nice stockpile. Baking soda. Okay, so that's the 25. I do have a couple honorable mentions that I will mention before I go ahead and close out this video. I know that it has gotten very long, but I warned you it was going to be long. But I really wanted to explain to everybody the reasons behind why I call these forever foods and why I preserve them and have them in my long-term storage. I feel a sneeze coming. Probably from that pepper I just opened up. Okay, I have a few honorable mentions. Now, these aren't necessarily forever foods, but they will last a very, very long time. Your canned meats and veggies. They will last a very, very long time. most likely, well, depending on your age, could be forever for you, for me. Over the years, it will deteriorate. It may even turn a different consistency. You know, I know that, like, for example, canned corn, after about 50 years, it is like creamed corn is kind of what it's like. It is still safe to eat as long as that can is not dented or swelled or any bulging or anything like that. As long as the can is perfectly intact, it is still safe to eat. The consistency might be different and the nutritional value may have dwindled, but it is still safe to eat. Okay? That goes for canned meats and veggies. Now, I'm not adding fruits here because fruits are usually high in acid and they do not last as long as your vegetables and your meats last, okay? And tomatoes is in that category as well. Tomatoes are high acid and they will not last like forever. If I found a can of tomatoes that I had on my shelf for 25 years, I wouldn't eat it. But most likely the can's going to be bulging anyway. I mean, I did get rid of a couple cans when I did my pantry tour, which I'm not sure if you guys have seen that yet at this point in time. But it was past expiration date and the can started to bulge. Well, you don't mess around with that. You just get rid of it. And tomatoes is one of those items that, tomatoes, pineapples, those two are highly acidic and they don't last very long. So they pretty much, you know, you might get them, they might be okay a year or two or so after their expiration date, but you just want to be careful with those and just really look if there's any problem with the can looking strange. Don't even bother with it. Okay, another thing is dried herbs. When herbs are dried, if you leave them out in the air, they will deteriorate fast. Like whenever you get a new spice jar and you open it up, it pretty much lasts about 6 months and then it really doesn't have much of a flavor. That's why, you know, they say once you open up the herbs, if you don't use them within 6 months, get rid of them because it's not worth it. But if you have dried herbs, like I have my own herb garden, I pretty much grow all of my own herbs and I will dehydrate them. And then I put them into Mylar bags with a silica pack and an oxygen absorber. And they will be fine in that Mylar bag in whatever I store them in. Some I store them in giant tins or Rubbermaid containers or in 6-gallon buckets. However you store it, they will be fine. I could open it 20 years from now and it'll be fine. But once you open it, once that oxygen gets to it, it will start deteriorating. So when I do my herbs, when I dehydrate them, I package them into smaller bags. So I don't have to open up a whole 6-gallon bucket of all basil and know that I can't use a whole 6-gallon bucket in 6 months. So I put them in smaller bags. So I only have to open a small bag and then that I can use for the next 6 months. And then when it runs out, I can get another bag. Okay. And then the final thing that's honorable mention is shortening. Where's my other one? Oh, shortening. Okay, this is not a forever food. Okay, it is not. In fact, I will prove that by, this is an organic shortening and it had a best buy date of February 2015. You open it, it looks white, it looks okay, you smell it, doesn't smell very good, okay? It's no good, but we're not gonna get rid of that, okay? But it does last longer than its date. This one here, where's the date? Okay, this one says 2019. Pure white, not cracking, has absolutely no smell. This would still be good to use for cooking. But that is not why I have these. I used to use shortening in baking like many years ago. That is why I had these. But I haven't used shortening in years, obviously. This is from 2015 and this was organic shortening. I, used this for cooking. But I just don't use it anymore. I use lard, I use butter, I use coconut oil, I use other things. I do not use this at all. Even in like my baking like pie crusts and stuff, I will use pure lard or I will use butter. But what I have these for, and what I'm going to bring you along with me, is you can use oil these well, my mind just, the shortening, you can use this shortening as emergency candles that will burn forever. I'm going to bring you guys along with me to show you how to do emergency candles. These aren't your standard wax candles. These are emergency candles. They are slow burning candles, and it's a perfect thing to do with any lard that has gone bad. So if you have any that's expired and does not smell good, you don't have to throw it away. This is another use for it. You can make it into a candle. I will always have these on my shelf. Down in my long-term storage room, I probably have a dozen of these. Not for the purpose of cooking. They are for the purpose of making emergency candles if needed. I have tons and tons of candles, and I make my own regular candles. I make beeswax candles, paraffin wax, all of those types of candles I make. But these are emergency candles, so since these are already open, I am going to go ahead and make them and show you guys how to make them. Usually in a normal candle size. Let me get one out. Now, I'm not sure, was a 16 or 20 ounce candle? It doesn't say. But like this candle, normal candles, if you put this on for 24 hours, it would probably be burned within 24 hours, the entire thing. It does burn pretty, normal candles burn quickly. Beeswax lasts a little bit longer. But when you mix this kind of wax with shortening, it will last a long, long time. I made a candle, one of these size candles, and it lasted 4 days, constant, being lit constant, 24 hours a day. So just think about that if you only used it when you needed it. I was just doing when I made it the first time, I was just doing it as I just wanted to see, it was like a test thing for me because I've seen other people do it and I'm like, does it really last? So I did my own test theory. So yes, it does. Can last 4 days completely, 24 hours a day running. Okay. But if you only use it when you need it, like at night or to see something, it will last a whole heck of a lot longer. So it is a perfect use of shortening to make an emergency candle that lasts a very long time. Okay. And that is it. I apologize for this being such a long-winded video. I mean, my throat is sore. I'm losing my voice, it almost sounds like. But I wanted to get this out to you guys. I've promised it on several occasions that I wanted to get the forever foods and forever items out to you guys. The way I look at it, if they store forever, why not store them? You know, store them, put them in Mylar, put them in a bucket, and forget about them. You just forget about them. They will last forever. And then if something happens, you will have them. You will have those items to make your life easier. And then, you know, I never have to buy these things again. You know, like as of right now, the things that I have stored long term, like for example, the baking soda. You know, this I'll put into a mason jar, and this is what I will use on my, you know, daily basis. But the 6-gallon bucket that I have packed in Mylar bag and oxygen absorber, that'll just be forever. I will use this, and when I run out of this, I will buy another one and just use this. And when it runs out, I'll buy another one and use that. It lasts forever, so it'll just stay in my long-term storage. If it ever comes a time that I can't get to the store or the store is out of it, I mean, remember, things that happened in 2020, you know, if the store doesn't have it or there is no store, I will have it. And I hope you guys enjoyed this, and please give me a thumbs up if you liked it. And if you have any questions or any comments, concerns, or thoughts, leave them down in the comments below. I'll be happy to help you. If I don't know the answer myself, maybe somebody else will know the answer. Have a really good community here. And if I don't know the answer, I will certainly research it, because that is one of the things that I love to do. If I don't know something, I want to research it. I want to learn how to do things on my own. I like to know as much as I can. So until next time, friends, see you later.